Just quickly Google L-Tyrosine Thyroid Scholar, and then look, you can just spend 10 minutes just reading down this page. It's really good, interesting information. And like this first study right up here, if you just click this one, you can see the title here. This is from Intensive Care Medical or Medicine Experimental Journal from 2015. Reductions in tyrosine levels are associated with thyroid hormone and catecholamine disturbances, just like Steven was mentioning. It plays a role in our brain health as well, and that L-DOPA, dopamine norepinephrine system. So, such a critical player there.
I would say one of the biggest things to call out is that nobody's eating it. Like
Right,
we're
yeah.
eating spinach. We hopefully we're putting spinach in the rotation, but kelp is something that nobody really. It's definitely under the radar, and it has some very interesting compounds that you don't find in spinach or other greens. We got to remember this comes from the ocean. This comes from the sea. It has some compounds that are, not only do they help with the thyroid function and supply iodine, but kelp has these other compounds that actually help with things like natural weight loss.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Healthy Habit Podcast. I'm Dr. Dayon of Healthy Habit Medical Center, and we've got the Director of Education at North American Urban Spice back on today. Mr. Steven Harkins is with us. Welcome back, Steven, to the show.
Thank you very much.
And today we're going to be continuing our immune support series here with Steven and talking about products that haven't been mentioned very often, at least in over a year, maybe since Radioland. So definitely since the first time we started this show here in January on the podcast format. So let's dive right into Immune 5 is on the radar today. Tell us about Immune 5. How is this different from, let's say, Oreganol P73 that we've discussed before with you, or Resp and things of that nature? Tell us about Immune 5.
Yeah, so Immune 5 is the 5 top immune strengtheners that we have come to find, and general consensus agrees. So those 5, I'll list them here. This is your starting 5, and it's zinc, elderberry, oregano P73, vitamin C, and black seed oil.
Amazing.
All in one.
So, okay, great. And so again, let's run that back real quick. People take notes when they watch this one. So you said black seed oil, the Oreganol P73, and the 3 others?
Yeah, and I'm gonna name them in terms of prominence. So I'll name them in terms of what we had the most of from
Got it.
greatest to least. So starting with zinc, huge immune nutrient and mineral right there. And then up next we have the raw elderberry extract, which is the top immune fruit. And then we
Right.
have black seed oil. I know you guys have been hearing a lot about that out in the news lately. That's black seed, and then followed up by its cousin, as I like to say, oregano P73, and vitamin C would be your last one.
I'm just pulling that up right here for the YouTube viewers. The Immune 5, it's in a glass bottle tincture, correct? It's not available as capsules or powders. We have that
Correct.
available as
Yeah,
the
it's
4
all liquid.
ounce. Perfect. The 4 ounce, 120 mil bottle. Zinc and
Yeah.
elderberry. Why is that so important to combine those two? Those are a good 1-2 punch right there, like Kobe and Shaq, right, Steven?
Yeah, I'd say like these are your shields,
There you go.
hold them up because if you don't have zinc and if you are deficient, which many people are, uh, then you will be very vulnerable to attack. So this is how viruses and bacteria and fungus and things like that become stronger in your body when you are deficient in zinc. It's incredible because I've seen people immediately react when they start to feel like they're down with something, take zinc and just immediately recover just with that one approach. And then elderberry is another type of shield. There's a protein in elderberry, has a weird name. It's called hemagglutinin protein. And in the studies, they study that the hemagglutinin protein was able to inhibit the influenza virus from multiplying or replicating. And the way it did that was it strengthened the membranes of the cells,
Hmm.
which is that fatty outside layer of the cells. so that the virus had a tougher time entering in. And so that's just what the research says. And there's a reason why elderberry is pretty much among the top in terms of market value of
Right.
immune strengtheners.
And that's why I love doing this show, because I totally forgot about the Immune 5 product, to be honest, and it's right there on the shelf. And I'm going to be handing this out like candy now. Literally on Halloween, if they come to the door, I'm going to hand out the Immune 5 instead of can.
You're gonna
So
need it. Yeah, you're
yeah,
gonna
this
need that.
is this is a powerful blend, natural whole food vitamin C sources, because it's not just those five, right, Stephen? We have these at the bottom here underneath that spring water, including the cinnamon oil, rock clover honey, right, acerola cherry, orange oil as well. Do you want to talk about a little bit
Correct.
of that supporting cast?
Well, cinnamon itself is classified as a viral support spice. And we certainly have the oil, which is more concentrated than even the powder is. And so that just adds another mechanism. And honey is known, that's a classic remedy going back to ancient Egypt and before for coughing, for getting out mucus, cleaning up the liver so the liver can not be compromised, but really, and just overall cell repair. So, and of course, it sweetens and makes the honey and the cinnamon help add to the taste as
Right.
well.
What a perfect blend here, as when this show airs, we're going to be deep into the fall season, probably in November there, heading towards December. So this is a perfect product to get you through the winter, really, and as a preventative measure, Stephen, right? We don't have to wait until we get sick. How important is it to take this preventatively?
I think that's the number one point right there is to be proactive this season. I look back on seasons where I was not proactive and where I got sick, and that was unnecessary, and nobody wants to be stuck in bed away
Right.
from life. And so, yeah, why do that when you can just be proactive? Take it now. Worst thing that happens is nothing.
Right. Yeah, you can research any of these ingredients here in the blend, especially elderberry. There's so much research on elderberry extract. And as we've said before, just throw that word scholar on the end of your search so you get legitimate sources of actual journal articles. Elderberry's been studied all across the world, as well as zinc. I mean, zinc is an important, it gets right into the cells, especially for men's health. That's an underrated player in prostate health. The prostate is the highest source of zinc in the male body. It's the highest tissue concentrated source of zinc. I don't know if you knew that one, Stephen.
No, I did not know
So,
that. I know it is involved in reproductive organs
yeah,
and DNA health and immune and your thyroid. I mean, so people might think zinc is just immune only. No, it's zinc and magnesium are the most important trace minerals you could possibly have, and
right.
most people don't get enough.
Again, that's the Immune 5 through North American Herb and Spice with zinc. You can see that right up here. Come talk to Stan the Demo Man, folks. You walk into the store, make a right, and you'll see Stan there at his booth, and ask him about the Immune 5 in glass liquid product at 4 ounces or 120 mils per bottle there. So you don't want to miss this one here in the fall season as we approach the winter. And yeah, it's an easy to take daily formula. 1 teaspoon per serving. So you'll get 24 month supply. Maybe take Sundays off to stretch that out to a 1 month supply is a nice little trick I like telling people. So that's the Immune 5 through North American Herb and Spice. Next up on the menu, we have Thyroset. Tell us about Thyroset and the thyroid. Underrated player in the immune system. It's like our metabolic ticker, like our thermostat. Tell us about Thyroset.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting that as we look at the numbers, thyroid problems and imbalances and especially low thyroid performance is definitely growing. We see that, especially in the women group out there for you women listening, hypothyroidism,
Yeah,
where the thyroid isn't making enough hormones, and then of the weight gain and all of that goes along with it in the metabolism. So, we one of the biggest ways, most practical ways we tackle this situation is we look at the population and we realize there are some nutrient deficiencies happening. And so the way the thyroid works, one of its biggest keys to unlock its function is to actually combine the amino acid L-tyrosine with kelp. And so by doing that, you're getting iodine and L-tyrosine. Iodine is supplied from the kelp. And so that helps you to naturally produce your T4 hormone, which is your master hormone uh, that is then used to produce more in the body. So, it's interesting that we've seen people, use supplement with iodine and help to naturally restore their thyroid integrity and function.
Hmm. Amazing. So again, from top to bottom, we have a proprietary blend here of about a gram per 2 capsules, 1,000 milligrams. The wild raw kelp, which is so much, it's so normal to consume that in the Asian countries, especially Japan along the coast there. They
Yeah.
consume 50 to 100 times the amount of iodine as a typical American. And you can see far fewer rates of hypothyroidism and different thyroid disorders in Asia, East Asia in particular.
Yeah.
They're
I'm
consuming
always making
tons of
that
kelp.
point. That's
So,
such a great
yeah.
point. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And then you add the L-tyrosine in there, which is an amino acid. People have heard of amino acids or like branch chain amino acids. A lot of people in fitness take those, but L-tyrosine is one that flies under the radar. Let's dive a little deeper then into L-tyrosine. You introduced it there, but let's go even deeper. It's an amino acid. How important is that? And it's a common deficiency. It's not found in typical ribeye steaks and eggs and only those sources. So tell us a bit more about L-tyrosine.
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits is energy,
Yeah.
and alertness, attention and focus. And so if you feel like that's you, and it's interesting if you have a sluggish thyroid, it tends to kind of drag you down in other ways as well, certainly mental as well, and energy, brain fog, fatigue. And so tyrosine is one of those things that helps you bring up that mental performance, and also has a direct effect on some of your neurotransmitters like dopamine, which is directly related to memory, mood, and
Right.
your pleasure centers.
Absolutely. And for the listeners, if you have 10 minutes here on your lunch break, just quickly Google L-tyrosine thyroid scholar. And then look, you can just spend 10 minutes just reading down this page. It's really good, interesting information. And like this first study right up here, if you just click this one, you can see the title here. This is from Intensive Care Medical or Medicine Experimental Journal from 2015. Reductions in tyrosine levels are associated with thyroid hormone and catecholamine disturbances, just like Steven was mentioning. It plays a role in our brain health as well, and that L-DOPA, dopamine, norepinephrine system. So, such a critical player there. And a lot of people are, as they move through life, they lose their tyrosine levels. And that's a critical player in converting these thyroid hormones to have healthy levels of T3, T4. So, right back here to the Thyroset formula, you're getting L-tyrosine right there in that formula with it, with the oregano, rosemary, and the raw kelp. So tell us a bit more about kelp then. How is that important? How is it different from, let's say, spinach or other green vegetables?
Okay. I would say one of the biggest things to call out is that nobody's eating it. Like
Right,
we're
yeah.
eating spinach. We hopefully we're putting spinach in the rotation, but kelp is something that nobody really, it's definitely under the radar, and it has some very interesting compounds that you don't find in spinach or other greens. We got to remember this comes from the ocean. This comes from the sea. It has some compounds that are, not only do they help with the thyroid function and supply iodine, but kelp has these other compounds that actually help with things like natural weight loss, helping to burn lipase, which is your fat, helping to get rid of fat more
Yeah,
efficiently. So that's good if you're trying to keep the weight down, which is also in a situation with hypothyroidism where your weight is up.
yeah.
Uh, and so you can also use it as naturally as a natural inflammation response as well. It's known to help with inflammation.
Amazing.
So this is, even if you have a good thyroid, it's a good idea to take some kelp and keep it going.
Right. And this is an important point here on the sourcing of the kelp. Like, we don't want the Pacific Coast kelp, it looks like, anymore. It's no longer desirable. So we're looking for the Icelandic or Atlantic Ocean region kelp, right?
Yeah, that's it's so hard to stay wild. It's so hard to in this day and age, but we will continue to change up our sources as needed, and that's one of the examples here.
Amazing. So again, that's the Thyroset formula. You can come talk to Stan, the demo man. And thyroid is so important for so many different things, and we're living through a hypothyroidism epidemic
Yeah.
right now in this country and really globally. Some of the most commonly prescribed medications are going to be for the thyroid, and a big player in that is L-tyrosine deficiency, not getting enough iodine in the diet, which is going to be supplied by this formula. So again,
And
always
also,
work. Go ahead. Yeah.
just put it out there, know your endocrine disruptors.
Mm,
BPA from plastics
right.
and, bad pesticides and so on and so on. So if you're avoiding those things while you're adding these things in, that's your
Yeah.
winning formula.
Another one, throw that into mix. We're at like four different factors now, and the reason why people are having low thyroid function. Another one would be getting too much trans fats in the diet from
Hmm.
fried foods, fried fatty foods, which literally it sits on the thyroid, just slowly suppresses its function. Plus, sitting too much in general. Like, get moving, get that metabolism moving, which will kind of wake up that thyroid. So, again, Thyroset, like thyroid, and then Thyroset from natural raw wild kelp plus herbs, which supports a healthy thyroid response. L-Tyrosine enhanced, and that's through North American Herb and Spice. You can even just go to northamericanherbandspice.com and then search Thyroset up here in the search bar. So thanks for covering that one, Steven. And
Definitely.
moving on next. So far we've covered the Immune 5, Thyroset, which actually complement each other because zinc is in that Immune 5 formula, and you need zinc for a healthy thyroid. So these are all
No.
working together. Let's cover BoneActiv next is on the menu. BoneActiv.
Yeah. So it's easy to think about our organs and our immune system and then kind of forget about our structure function,
Yeah.
forget about our bones, which absolutely we need to be supporting. And we created this formula. It's called BoneActiv. It's capsules, and it has the MCHC, microcrystalline hydroxyapatite, and that's just a fancy word for the bone matrix and kind of the collagen bone material that is ground into a powder,
Right.
coming from really high quality grass-fed cattle from New Zealand. And so the interesting thing is we've all heard of bone broth. A lot of us have, where that helps your bones. So it's just like the liver that we sell, the concept of taking this part of the animal and then it supports and nourishes that same part in you.
Hmm.
And that's the idea. So instead of having to make a bone broth and go through all that process, it's been powdered for you, so you can get the benefit right away. And then we add the herbs, and it's very important that we did, because oregano, sage, and rosemary all support. Those are the monoterpenes that support bone function,
Hmm.
inflammation. They're also very high in antioxidants, which is needed for cellular repair. But there's a researcher out there, Mulbauer. He's a Swedish guy. He is it's Muhlbauer, Mulbauer, and he basically said, "Hey, I want to find out more about how to increase bone density using nature." And so he started studying all these different natural herbs and fruits and compounds to try to catalog which one of these actually help with bone density. So he ran
Yeah.
all of these different studies, and oregano, sage, rosemary, which by the way we get wild from the mountains, not your everyday variety. They came up in the test scoring very high levels with the bone density situation.
Wow. And you mentioned the hydroxyapatite, which is coming from grass-fed cattle in this formula. What is
Yeah.
hydroxyapatite? People might be wondering. Well, it's a key part of the bone, like to make them in the mineral phase of bone formation. You need that hydroxyapatite to form. It's comprised primarily of calcium and phosphate, and it's
Yes.
been extensively used in the world of orthopedics. They call it a biomaterial, really, to help regenerate damaged tissue or to form new tissue. Do you want to add anything to that? How important is the hydroxyapatite?
Well, you mentioned the calcium phosphate, angle, which is the minerals that the bone it actually nourishes the bone in order for the bone to grow.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you don't have it. And what they have shown is in the studies with the MCHC is there's a mechanism called osteoblast, and then there's a mechanism called osteoclast. Blast means that you're in a bone growth phase. clast, osteoclast, means you're in a bone loss phase. We all want to be in the osteoblast, which is what these herbs and this MCHC helps us to do in combination with things like vitamin C, citrus fruits, plums, onions, garlic, those type of things. And I cringe when I see people buying calcium pills, just they're
Mm.
synthetically derived. It really ends up giving you too much calcium. It can be really damaging to the heart and to your arteries. And so getting the natural calcium from the bone matrix of the cattle is really far superior method to go.
That's fascinating. And that's not a commonly consumed type of animal product in the Western world. People are just eating the bacon and the salmon. And not that these are like the worst. I'm just saying, like, these are neglected amino acids that are found in the bone of the animal, like the hydroxyapatites. And actually, it's going to have L-tyrosine in there as well, kind of like collagen,
Yeah,
proline, hydroxyproline, glutamic acid. These types of things aren't found really in steaks and grilled chicken breast and
muscle meats.
pork and muscle meats, exactly, which are really high in methionine, but they're poor in proline and L-tyrosine and hydroxyapatite and things like that. So we're trying to get a better balance, right, Steve? Is that a good way to view that?
Yeah, you mentioned some of the amino acids that are hard to find, and those are absolutely needed. Those are the building blocks that you need. And when you look back at, we always have to look back at how humans were living. We should never be ignorant of that because it's allowed us to be here today.
Yeah.
And they make use of the entire animal with nothing left out. They use the whole thing.
Absolutely. Take 2 capsules daily is the suggested dose. Always work with your doctor. And this is never medical advice. We're just talking about different options that are available to extend your lifespan and health span, right? So support your bone density and joint health with this wild spice formula based on science. Wild oregano combined with wild rosemary sage plus raw New Zealand grass-fed bone. It gives you real power, folks. This is the BoneActiv without the E at the end. Again, come talk to Stan, the demo man, and he'll point you guys in the right direction. If you want to mix it up a little bit and look for a different option for supporting your bones instead of the typical calcium tablets that Stephen was mentioning there, which who knows where that's coming from. We don't, people already have way too much calcium in their body who live in North America. Now imagine just ramming down excess calcium additional from capsules. That could be a real issue and build up in those arteries, right? Cause stiffening of those arteries. Is that a good way to look at
Yes.
it?
Yeah, and you look at that, we already have that. We already have an epidemic of
Yeah,
arterial stiffness as it is.
absolutely. Coming in the tail end here, last couple minutes, maybe we can introduce this next product I really wanted to squeeze in, which is Purely-Zinc, which, remember, the Immune 5 had zinc sulfate in there with all the other ones like the elderberry, the oregano, and the honey, and all things of that nature. But the Purely-Zinc, tell us about this.
Well, there's a lot I can say. This is out of all the products we mentioned, this is my favorite. So I'm glad we left it for
Okay.
last. I use this a lot. My wife's been using it in her pregnancy, and you need zinc. We talked about how it's needed for the DNA, the immune system, the hormone system, and more. But this is completely food source. That source being an Austrian pumpkin seed powder. And this is something that you put in your smoothies primarily. You can certainly do it as a baked good. You can do it in oatmeal as well. But what I love about it is it gives you your daily value of zinc, but it also adds much more. You can use this as a protein powder. It's 12 grams of protein per serving. It's 3 grams of fiber, and it has things like magnesium. Now, remember, if you have too much calcium, magnesium is actually the solution for that. There, you need to have that balance. 80+% of people in the world are deficient in magnesium, and zinc is the other important trace mineral. So I like to tell people that you've got the copper, the zinc, the magnesium, the manganese. It's all here. And then, not to mention, another really good pair up with zinc as an immune support is vitamin C, right?
Okay.
And you have over 300% vitamin C per serving from berry sources as well. So it's a very complete, nutrient rich powder that tastes very good in smoothies. I like to do it in milkshakes.
Right. This is extremely powerful formula. It's only 3 ingredients too. I love that. It's only the Austrian pumpkin seed powder, We have the rice bran in there, and then wild camu camu, and that's it. It's extremely dense in micronutrients. You can see on the back of the bag here, it tells you all the different minerals and vitamins broken down in terms of percentages. In just 2 tablespoons, I think, yeah, 2 tablespoons,
Yeah.
you're getting, yeah, like Steven said, 300% vitamin C of your daily value. You're getting 50% of your magnesium, and then even 110% of manganese, which is a key mineral for nerve system health and many other functions in the body. There's even 20% iron in there. A lot of people are dealing with anemia. So you're getting 20% of your daily value of iron in just 2 of these right there. So that's a really concentrated, powerful formula. So perfect place to end it there, Stephen. What's a good recap then for today? We hit on 4 different products. It's that immune series that we're continuing. What else did you want to add in? What's a good recap?
Well, don't neglect your immune system. That's the military of your body, and a lot flows from that. And so, but also make sure you're hitting it on different fronts. We always talk about oregano oil. I wouldn't let off the gas. I would keep doing your couple of drops here and there. That's what we do, but don't neglect the nutrients. So today we talked about zinc. We talked about vitamin C. We talked about things like MCHC to keep your bones strong. I mean, this is very practical. I could see somebody using all 4 of these products in their regimen and doing very well. And of course, just remember, if you want to have that competitive edge in life, even if you're already healthy, you could always be better. And you hear a lot about different diets and fads. You hear about vegetarian and pescatarian and
Right.
keto, and there's some virtues to each one of those. But there's a term called nutritarian I want to introduce to people here at the end, and that's just the idea of eating as much nutriture as you can per bite per meal.
Hmm.
And if you live with that mindset, um, your body, is you're gonna have that longevity, that energy, more on a consistent basis. So always try to think, how much nutrients am I getting? How can I get more?
Perfect place to end it there. And congrats again. Steven's about to be a father, so we're rooting for you guys.
Yes.
Congrats to you and your wife, and I look forward to our next conversation, Steven.
Thank you. Yep. Looking forward to it. And God bless everybody and have a great immune season here.
You too, Steven.
Bye bye.